Hey, you've probably had some daydreams about how your jiu-jitsu would be f***ing sick when you find yourself in an altercation on the street. And there's little moments I've had the same sort of fantasy. But let me tell you, have you actually considered what of your jiu-jitsu would work against someone that's got a knife or someone that's got a gun and is prepared to use it? It's a whole different game, let me tell you. And recently I've been working with someone whose job necessitates them to get into altercations with people and also to handle a firearm. So today we explore this. Another thing in this episode that you're going to love is I introduce you to a particular fight team that I've been following on Instagram who train outdoors on gravel and with firearms. And let me tell you, it changes the whole emphasis of the jiu-jitsu and it makes a fight that looks very different from what you might have thought a street fight is going to look like. Hope you enjoy the episode. Let's get into it. By the way, chances are that you haven't subscribed or left a 5-star review for this show. We know this because we have the data on the YouTubes and whatnot. And we would really appreciate if you could just take a moment to leave us that 5-star review, like, subscribe, do all that just to do your little bit to support the show. We appreciate it. Let's go. Something fascinating that I've been exploring in recent weeks. I thought about quite a lot over the years, but recent weeks been exploring this with jiu-jitsu is how the game changes when there's a firearm involved.
Ooh.
Specifically a pistol.
Ooh, the blicky.
Yep. And this came about because I got a mate of mine who's a copper.
Okay.
Who I've started training with some basic jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And he's got some shit.
He's handy.
But he's like, I just want to know some more shit.
Sure.
And I want to sort of, practice it a bit regularly. And so we're working through basic stuff, right? And it's really interesting because I teach him the thing and, this is great. And then we sort of review it. Like as you're going through it, I'm thinking, how would this change though if my opponent could bite?
Oh, yeah.
Or if there was a weapon involved.
Yeah.
And so he's like, look, man, most of the positions I'm just thinking about how I can get to a point of control and then get to my weapon.
Right.
And I'm like, damn.
That's a different game.
It's a different game.
Bro, hand control.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe some wrist
lock action, bro. It's really cool though, because it really does kind of strip away, I don't know, it doesn't change a lot of the fundamentals, at least in my superficial view.
But it's a different objective, right?
It is.
It's not, I've just got a pass guard or there's a very real threat, which is a firearm.
Yeah.
And whoever gets it, like even if you have it first, if your opponent wrestles it off you, it's game over.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be a bad day.
Bro.
There's this group that I showed them to you before on Instagram, which for those listening, check them out.
What is the name?
Sharneski.team, I think.
Okay.
Sharneski, just in your Instagram, Sharneski team or Sharneski fight team, CH. And it's a Brazilian guy. I think he's like a special forces or boppy kind of guy. For the less initiated, if you haven't seen the film Elite Squad, go watch that shit.
Yeah,
You'll understand who boppy are.
Elite team, yeah.
But so what he does is he posts a bunch of clips of him training with his soldiers or his officers or whatever, and they got like. And I'm telling you watched it before, but they're wearing their like jeans or tactical pants, boots, t-shirt. They got a belt on and shit. So they're wearing like kind of stiff clothing in that sense. And then it's like, and they're on gravel or dirt. So they're not on mats. They're always outdoors. And what they often do is take a pistol. One dude puts the pistol in his jeans, and then the opponent gets one hand on the pistol as if he's taking it, and then this guy gets to go one hand on his hand, and then it's like start,
right?
And it's a fight, right? They're using strikes and they're using jiu-jitsu, but the whole goal is to get the firearm and then shoot the other guy. Now there's no bullets in the gun, but
he doesn't just pull the trigger and blow the guy's cock off. Like,
that's right. Yeah, I won. I won, sir. But it's really fascinating, isn't it? Because the game changes from, because you'll see one guy has the grip, the other guy has the grip on him. The dude that has the grip just zeroes in on, I got to get this gun.
Yeah.
The other guy starts like, he's got one hand on that, but he's like wrestling that other dude, hitting him, taking him down, trying to knee him. But the other guy's just like, I'm just going to eat whatever you've got in the hope that I can pull this gun and blast, right? And
it's a totally different set of parameters.
Yeah. It's just super fascinating to watch. I really like it because you know, whatever, you see the positions in there. There's close guard moments, there's head control and all sorts of stuff. But again, it's all like get to the firearm.
Yeah, especially like having a look at it. The guy is eating punches, knees.
Yeah, like just
he's taking a beating because he knows if he gets the gun,
checkmate.
All of it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
that's the submission. And I think this is really relevant. Like I actually, when we were talking before, I was saying that, you know, looking at just like kind of sidestep a little medieval MMA, which you guys, if you're not onto that, just Google that shit. It's pretty intense. Like
they don't go to the ground and shit, do they?
Yeah, but it's usually over because dude will be like stab, stab, stab. The ref will step in.
Axe.
Yeah, like axe in the head. Or dude is just whapping dude in the head with the sword, and you're like, his head is bouncing around in a steel container. Don't worry about the CTE. This guy's head's getting mashed. What is interesting about that style of MMA or the grappling that occurs when they have these big weapons is much more judo. It looks a lot more like judo. Yeah. You're seeing dudes do big hip throws because dudes swing in a sword and that makes room for the shoulder throw.
Yeah.
Or dude thrusts the spear and you sidestep and then hip toss a cat.
Yeah.
You know, it's not small, nuanced moves. It's big power moves to get someone on their back so you can basically kill them.
And they're pretty, I mean, once you put someone in that sort of armor on their back, they're like a cockroach a bit. Like it's hard to, they're not wrestling up real quick.
No, they're not just kipping up like Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
No, there's no wrestle up. But the interesting thing about it is that the weapon and not rule set, but it's interesting that the armor and the weaponry sets the terms and the conditions for the style of grappling.
Yeah.
And so if we look at your case, Joe, where we're talking about dudes in regular street clothes, more or less, with a pistol, which is kind of what you get, that then changes what that grappling looks like.
For sure. Yeah, there's something sort of, it's like gross motor patterns with the armor, isn't it? Because you kind of move like a Lego man.
Yeah, vision, movement.
Have you ever heard that, you know, that's where a lot of the early jiu-jitsu, judo kind of is said to have come from, was because when soldiers were fighting ancient Japan, they wore that kind of was it bamboo armor?
Or, they're a bit restricted, bit of leather, bit of everything.
so joint locks and throws and stuff were more effective.
Yes.
Versus like a blow. Like you're not going to hit someone, it doesn't hurt because they got a mask on and
potentially
body armor, you know. But there's articulation at the elbows and the shoulders, so you can attack those joints.
There's nothing worse than feeling tired and gassed out, and you've only just gotten into your first roll. You know what could be causing this, my friends? Dehydration. Dehydration is an absolute jiu-jitsu killer. What I do to make sure that I don't experience this is I use Sodi. Sodi is today's sponsor. Sodi, SODII.com.au has got you covered with all the flavors of the rainbow. The perfect mix of sodium, potassium, and magnesium keeps the water in your muscles so you can keep rolling longer, harder, and stronger and not feel gassed out. Go to sodi.com.au and use the code Bulletproof15 for 15% off. Get hydrated and roll stronger today.
Here's a message I got on Instagram the other day. Hey guys, just wanted to let you know that my daughter and I both downloaded the Bulletproof for BJJ app and we are loving it so much. I haven't enjoyed going to the gym this much for years. I'm kicking myself that it took me this long to try your programs. Fam, let me tell you, if you haven't checked it out, the Bulletproof for BJJ app is an excellent resource for you to build a strong, flexible body that can perform well on the mats and get injured as little as possible. It is as close to an insurance policy as you can have in this game, and you only need to train 2 to 3 hours a week to get the benefits from it. We have built the programs so that it takes the least amount of time possible so that you can focus on what you love, which is doing jiu-jitsu. If If you go to the App Store now, you can start a 2-week trial for free. Simply search Bulletproof for BJJ, download the app, get in, start training, and get instant connection with JT and myself and the coaching staff so that we can help you on the journey. Go to the App Store, get the app. We'll see you on the inside. Hey, it's super common these days that you want to do some jiu-jitsu learning outside of your time in the academy. And it makes a lot of sense because you only have certain times you can get to the academy, but you might have idle time at a computer or on your phone during the day when you could put 20 minutes into studying some jiu-jitsu. Let me tell you from my own experience, there's a bunch of platforms out there, but by far the most effective platform I have come across and used personally is Submeta. It is the most comprehensive online learning library, and the format of the lessons actually solidify the stuff you're learning. So instead of just sort of spewing out a bunch of techniques and you hoping that you're going to remember them, it actually has a really neat little way of making sure you absorb the techniques and the learnings, and it even hits you with the questionnaire to make sure that you've processed the video you've just watched. Lachlan Giles is on there, B-Team's on there, there's a bunch of great stuff. And right now, you can get $16 off when you use the code Bulletproof16 at checkout. Go to submeta.io, use the code Bulletproof16 to get $16 off and take your learning of jiu-jitsu to the next level.
And I believe that the reason why stand-up and why judo was so much more apart, and I'm sure if you're out there for all my history hardcore nerds, you'll correct me, but stay with me. Being able to put someone on their back was key because then you could basically just zap and move on.
Yep.
Like you just...
Or someone else could just
I put this guy down,
for you. Yep.
they're coming through, they'll stab, and then I can take the next guy down and we just roll through.
Yeah.
And and so the game was kind of over if you put someone on their back.
Yeah.
But yeah, watching these clips, guys, it's phenomenal because you're like, why is that guy just...
Why is he not doing anything?
Yeah, he's turtled up.
Yeah.
And he's eating shit. The guy's giving him the GSP, knee to the face, knee to the ribs while he's in turtle.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's so brutal. But then...
You're like, oh, wait, yeah, because he's got his hand on, one hand on the gun. Yeah.
Yeah. Steve Maxwell, actually, when I did his Gracie Self-Defense seminar, talked a lot about it's really important for you to, when you're pummeling with somebody, you have to pummel to the side that allows you to control where the gun's holstered.
Right.
Like that's what you're thinking. Because if you can take their gun away from them, then you can stab them in the throat or he was talking about the context of say a military operation where you couldn't have noise.
Yeah.
Which means knives.
Yeah.
And he's like, you go in there, you can't have them fire their gun either. So if you have to grapple someone, you have to immediately take their gun away from them, have it not go off. You can't use it. You've got to kind of disarm them and then silence them.
My favorite move in that scenario when I found myself there is to
When
creep
you
up
were-
behind and do the neck break.
Ah.
You just twist it only about 15 degrees.
Oh, wow.
It's just a certain speed and coordination and they die instantly.
Wow. Amazing.
I learned that from Van Damme.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, we should probably get him on the podcast.
I think
you
I
guys
should
talk
send
about your
an
training.
email to Steve Maxwell.
You
Just let
should.
him know, hey man, things have...
Just to update him.
Yeah, right.
Hey, look, just so
familiar
you know,
with Death Touch?
save some time, hit him with the dim mark. It's all over, just in the back. Makes their heart explode out the front. But no, I do believe that, we've talked about it. Part of the reason why the UFC and also combat jiu-jitsu is getting so popular, as soon as you add in even just palm strikes or fists, the nature of the grappling changes.
Yeah.
Because you can't just have two hands on something and be safe.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that then changes your perception of grappling for actual real
Street
violence.
defense.
Yeah. It's pretty brutal, but it's amazing.
And I mean, there's obviously there's clear gaps in that, right? Say with the guy the Brazilian guy that I watch on Instagram, or say what I've been looking at with my mate. It all changes if there's multiple attackers.
Oh yeah, one-on-one's one thing, but
yeah, I'm sure I mentioned it in the past, but there's that Frank Grillo did that show where he goes and trains different martial arts around the world.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's
Yeah.
he's a fit guy. Yeah.
And he did that one. He did one in Israel.
Wow.
And it's f***ing cool.
Yeah.
He spends time with two guys. One guy's one guy's like a Krav Maga kind of knife specialist, and he just talks about knife fighting.
Yeah.
And he's like, first thing is like, in a knife fight, like nobody wins.
You're both dead.
Like it's terrible. But he's like, but here's what we can do to try to be the guy that walks away.
Yeah.
But he talks to this other guy who's just a savage, and the other guy's like talking about his mentality of the whole exchange is buying time, even when he's got a gun pulled on him, or he's like, the whole thing is to buy time to get to my firearm, shoot you in the head.
Yeah.
And he's like, and the intensity that this guy's delivering you're like, oh my God, this is an animal.
Yes.
You know, and you can see it's been drilled into him, like he's a savage. But it's just that it's like, wow, like, yeah, it's a completely different game. So this kind of makes you reflect on, and hopefully, you know, for you listening, like, you know, when we're like, I do jiu-jitsu, like, I think I'd be pretty safe out there. And it's like, look, you got some shit, but don't get it twisted. You are not a self-defense specialist.
You against the broccoli head vape guy at the gym who wants to kick you off the bench press. Sure.
Yeah, you got this.
You're going to be pretty good, but not an ex-military,
No.
you know, grizzled, like
Not even potentially some junkie that's been living on the streets for 10 years that scraps every other week.
Yeah.
You know, that has more experience, like just fighting on the pavement
maybe he's
and using trolley poles and broken bottles
but
and shit.
yeah, but maybe also that guy was like a dishonorable discharge from the army and was like,
get out,
kicked
you
out.
junkie scum.
Well,
I'm
they
gonna go
know-
to the streets and kick ass.
Well, no, maybe they kicked him out of the military because he murdered the weapons officer or something. You don't, you just
Don't
can't,
know.
you can't know, you know? And I mean, this is the thing. This is why it's always better to.
My cousin's son, who's, you know, a young man, said it to me at a family thing the other day. He's like, oh, but you'd like, how about you, man? Like, you'd be so confident, right? Like, just if you got into anything on the street. And I was like, nah, like I've never once practiced street fighting, you know? I'm like, I go jiu-jitsu, like soft mats, rules, round starts, we bow, you know? I'm like, yeah, like whatever. It prepares you to some degree, but I'm like, it shouldn't be confused with like actually being adept at like, and he was like, oh, he just never thought about that, right? And many of us haven't. But yeah, it is a fascinating thing to reflect on about jiu-jitsu and some of the potentials of it. There it is. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, share the episode with a friend, gets the word out there. We appreciate you.
Peace.